Hello everyone, I hope all of you guys are having a great weekend. So today's video we're just gonna discuss about last week's price action and also a bit about rejection blocks, so support and resistance levels, right? We will try to formulate the whole of the last week's price action in terms of rejection blocks, so that we'll have a better understanding about that. So what was our main idea coming into this week? We saw that price was reacting at a monthly fair value gap, right? Price rejected from this monthly fair value gap, closed above. So our main objective for this month was at least to reach the previous month's high, right? That is the July month's high. That was our main um, target of for the month of August, right? Of course, the other targets being the all-time high. Now, if you drop down into the weekly time frame, what can you see? You could also see uh, with the weekly candle reacting at a weekly fair value gap, rejection, and then pushing price upwards. So when we started this week, um, over here by the end of the last week, right? Our main idea was buys, right? For obvious reasons, because closed above, pushed, closed above, pushed above. So we have our main targets of liquidity over here. So at least until these highs were swept, it's quite logical for us to think that buys are pro for this week, right? But I haven't discussed about open low high close and open high low close, those concepts which I will discuss next week most likely. But if we are expecting a bullish week, what we can expect is the price to open, create a low of the week, and then go up and then close, right? And what's our main anticipation for this week, for the last week? So what were we expecting? We were expecting a bullish week, right? So as always, we mark our key levels, right? We mark the weekly fair value gap, which is a potential area for the weekly candle to create the low of the week, right? Understand that there is a potential area for the weekly candle to create the low of the week. Now, because this is a quite a broad area, we can drop into daily time frame as well, and then try to see the price action. And you can see all these buy side liquidity which is resting to be taken before the price moves down. That was our whole key plan, right? And within that weekly fair value gap, you could also see the daily fair value gap over here, right? Um, the daily fair value gap over here. So we saw this liquidity over here. So my key thought was right. Even if price drops down here, it can create the low of the week around this region and then push up, right? If I zoom in, there are no daily fair value gaps over here, nothing. So it's all mitigated. There's no volume imbalance, and the only small one that I could potentially see is over here, right? So if I had to create an argument, yes, price can pull back at least up until, I mean, the maximum it can pull back according to my thought of idea was up until this daily fair value gap right at the bottom. If price crosses below this, then I would say we are looking at these lows being taken again, because then we are overall on the high time frame. I think we could look at being bearish, right? These liquidity areas are what we wanted to target. So coming into Monday, we were expecting buys, of course, to push price upwards. We also had a small, tiny fair value gap over here, if you noticed. Uh, but what happened over here? So this was a daily fair value gap as well. Now, we had all this liquidity over here, the weekly, daily, and you saw Monday do this, right? It swept the last week's high. It swept the last week's high and closed bearish, right? When price does this, when price does this, right, swept the last week's high and closed bearish, we know for sure Tuesday it's gonna be bearish, right? Until when? Until at least this level, which is a daily fair value gap, where the price can turn. And if that becomes inversed, if you watched my last video about fair value gaps, if that becomes inverse, we know then the price would reach all the way down here to the bottom. The reason being, there is no fair value gaps over here, right? No fair value gaps over here. There's the last fair value gaps over here and here, which is a weekly time frame, right? So you can expect price to at least reach until here if you think the price would break through this, if this doesn't hold. Of course, if this did hold, then we would see a different scenario where the price would push up until that liquidity target, right? But the obvious move would be Tuesday trading into here. Now on Monday, if you notice, where is this rejection coming from? If you jump into the 4-hour time frame, right, what is this level? This is a rejection block, right? I've discussed about the power of this key level before as well. This is a rejection block or a resistance levels or whatever you call it. So a bullish candle followed by a bearish candle with a big rejection wick, and that level is a rejection block, and that's what you can see this reaction selling off, right? Exactly from there, reacted and boom. And when we are on the lower time frame, right, we need to utilize the fair value gaps to make it inverse. So whatever it is, so we had a volume imbalance over here, we were targeting that volume imbalance. So 4 hours will be marked in red usually. So we have an inverse fair value gap, and we also have a fair value gap, a bearish fair value gap in line into it. So that was what we marked. So a clear cut rejection from that rejection block and price pushing down. Our next levels of liquidity to target was this one, which is a daily, right, which is a daily fair value gap. And if that fails to hold, we could anticipate all these liquidity below here, right? That was the main thing. So still going into Monday, Tuesday, my thought was, okay, Monday and Tuesday will sell off, and Wednesday would create the low of the week, and then Thursday, Friday would expand, because my whole idea is we're expecting a bullish week, right? But as you saw, right, it went down, pushed, and then Asia range, and then through Tuesday, you saw how price was just dropping down without even giving a single pullback for me to enter into any sell setup, right? It was disrespecting the lower time frame fair value gaps, the 4 hours. Why? Because if a higher time frame fair value gap could not hold it, which is a daily fair value gap, um, you should understand that its main target, or it's trying to reach a higher fair value gap than this. So that this 4 hour cannot hold price dropping down into the weekly or the daily down here, right? So the only way you could have utilized, I mean, we could have utilized, is to use this inverse fair value gap. As you can see, this is a bullish fair value gap, 4 hour closed below. So once it closes below, what does it become? So once it closes below, this becomes an inverse fair value gap. What does that mean? If price does pull back, we can look for prices down. And this is when I posted on the Discord group saying this 4 hour fair value gap rejection, so respecting or disrespecting it will give us a clear idea as to what to trade. So when this got disrespected, then we knew, okay, the obvious targets of liquidity would be looking for a sell after a pullback touch here and then over here, and that's what happened. If you notice, right, you can utilize them in the lower time frame, but you can see here a pinpoint rejection from there, and then boom, you target until these levels, right? So that's what happened on that. So until this is taken, after this is taken now, because there's a considerable amount of major liquidity swept, right? Why I call that? Because this is the previous week's low, right? That is the previous week low. So once that previous week's low is swept, anything any cells taken from here would be considered high risk sell for me, because this is a potential area of reversal. Of course, price can drop down, it can continue to go down, but the probabilities of having a sell off, trying to sell from here than trying to sell from here, is very less, right? So if you catch a sell from here, there is a higher probability for you to reach it. But if you try to catch a sell from here where there is a potential chance for reversal, that would be high risk. So for you to wait would be the best setup, and that's why I waited, right? And all I wanted to see, because we are at a weekly fair value gap, yes, of course, this liquidity is there where the price can still go into the daily. But all I wanted to see was, because we are at a weekly fair value gap, I told you we need to see the low getting swept, which it did, right? The low getting swept and closing above, right? Closing above, but it never closed above. It never closed above. And what do you see here? What is this? Buy candle followed by a sell candle. That's another rejection block, right? So four rejection blocks are quite powerful. We saw one over here where the price. So if you're on the right direction of the market, you could capitalize on it, and that's when the price dropped over here as well. So that, okay, fine, we got a rejection. Now we need to be careful, right? And so price was really choppy on this day, Wednesday, because of the FOMC minutes as well. It retook the low again, right? It took the low again, but still failed to close above this high. It failed to close above this high. This is when I realized, okay, this week's PA is going to be really bad. And by the time Wednesday ended, right? So this was Wednesday. Yeah. So look how Wednesday did. So by the time Wednesday ended, now you should understand, okay, I was in the thought, fine, we have a break above, but this is not one candle breaking above with conviction, right? So I thought, okay, now we got the low of the week, right? My understanding was, okay, fine, now we have got the low of the week. Why? Because this is a 4 hour break, and if you saw the fair value gap video, you would understand about it. So I was like, okay, fine. So as long as this low is holding, I am looking for higher price action, right? You need to have a bias or a plan to trade, right? If this low fails to hold, then my whole point of this week being bullish is wrong, and it's okay to be wrong, right? So my whole point is, okay, if this holds, as long as this holds, I can look for higher price action. How do I look for higher price action? You can see this, there is no fair value gaps over here. The only 4 hour fair value gap was this one, right? Now I wanted to see this become inversed. If this got inversed close above with momentum, then I know for sure we can target these highs, right? We can target these highs. So price can easily still continue go down after reacting from here, because this can just be a pullback, right? This can just be a pullback. But the reason why this sell is very important, guys, right? The reason why this sell will be low probability for me is because why? Because we are at a key level, a higher time frame key level, which is a weekly fair value gap, which is a daily fair value gap. So when price is coming off of a weekly or a daily fair value gap over here, and we are trying to sell off from a 4 hour fair value gap, which is a lower time frame, that all seem to be low probability for me, right? I prefer buys at any other day than this, although it didn't play out, but that's how it is, right? That's how trading is. It won't be 100% every time, but I've seen this play out day out, weeks and months. So that's why I stuck to the plan, right? So at least until that level, so it's like, okay, there's no mitigation. I mean, buys were at least pro until then. But what did price action do? Right? What was this? What has it created? Sorry. So it closed above. It did not reach this. I mean, it did not even reach this liquidity. What did it create? A buy candle followed by a sell candle. What's this? And I posted in the premium chat regarding this. What is this? This is a rejection block. Right? This is a rejection block. And on the lower time frame, if you saw, still lower time frame, right? If in the lower time frame, if you saw, so this was on Thursday, right? Rejected and then boom, dropped down all the way down, right? So then I was like, okay, fine. This could be a pullback, but at least until this low is held, it was like, no, I would still be okay with buys because this low is held for a break. We can look for continuation buys, right? And then that's when price decided to do this, right? Price decided to do this. Now, this is when I realized, okay, this week cannot be a bullish week by any means, right? By any means, you cannot expect the whole weekly candle to be overpowered. Now, you can see on the, I think it's on the indicator would be better. Let's see whether the weekly candle shows over here. Fine. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so you can see over here what the week's intention had been, right? This is on Monday, right? What did you do? Monday opened here, created the high, this, this, this. So far up to now, open high and then drop down. If it wants to be a bullish week, it needs to go all the way up here on Friday. So what can you expect? On Friday, you could only expect a small pullback. Expect a small pullback, or it could range, right? Buy for the next week to make the move, or to sweep the low and then make the move. Anyway, we'll discuss about next week later on. But that was the whole point, right? So now once it swept again, you realize, okay, I'm gonna stop trading. My weekly bias is wrong. It's not, the price is not even reaching up here. It's not even giving me opportunities to look for sells or buys, whatever it is. It's just ship chopping around, right? So then I realized, okay, fine, this is not the right time for you to be fooling around. Of course, it did not have a clear top over here, but you could see price sweep this low, price sweep this low, and trying to make an effort to bullish effort, right? Understand, we still do not have any 4 hour fair value gaps here, here, nothing. Only area is up here, so that's why I've gonna create an alarm over here. But that is just for you to realize there's no volume insufficiencies here, or imbalances over here where the price can easily come up over here. All this is liquidity, right? All these are low resistance liquidities where highs have not been swept, right? Especially on this day, um, Rohit was waiting for the Asia high to be swept. That would have been an ideal setup for him, right? But even the high did not sweep. This high, the Asia high, was not taken. So clearly, we have lots of liquidity running, a lot of buy side liquidity over there, which is waiting to be swept. But the question is when, right? Because there's no 4 hour or any other fair value gaps here. And that's when you saw the Friday open. It moved up for considerable time, and then I thought, okay, maybe with this big bullish move, I thought, okay, maybe at least Friday wants to reach up this up to this level, right, key level. But it never did. What did it in turn create? What did it in turn create? A bullish candle followed by a bearish candle. Beautiful. A rejection block again, right? A rejection block again. So when price was here, now you're thinking, okay, maybe this is the low of the day. But we can't expect the low to be continuing. So we were looking for sells now. The 4 hour itself. So there's no, all these are highs waiting to be swept, right? Understandably, at a later point. But then when you saw this, okay, fine, we can potentially catch a reversal sell over here, because as we did over here, rejection block, as we did over here, as we did over here, right? That's one of the very, very strong key levels. So what did price do? If you jump into 5 minute, right? If you jump into 5 minute, we have marked this over here. Just gonna minimize that. Fine. So we have marked the rejection block over here. So it eventually, right? This was protected, but went. Price did this up and reacted to the pip, right? Reacted to the pip from that rejection block key level, only to push the price down, right? Only to push the price down. So, and then it started arranging after all, right? And we are over here. So that's all I could explain to you about last week's price action, because if you go through if you go through the tutorial and understand how many people have lost their accounts on this price action, because from Wednesday this has been ranging, right? Wednesday over here, Thursday over here, and then Friday over here. There's no clear movement. These are the moments which you want to capitalize on. These are the moments which you want to capitalize on. Look at that, beautiful, beautiful, right? Not these kind of price action over here, if you notice, right? These are the moments which you want to capitalize on, big movements. So the same way, that's what happened on the last week. So going into next week, I want you guys to tell me what you think would happen, and how you would go about it is by utilizing the higher time frames, right? You jump into the weekly, and then you realize, okay, price has swept the high, close below, we have created a big bearish weekly candle, right? But we are also at a weekly fair value gap. We have daily fair value gaps over here. Is price going to be bullish next week, or is price going to be bearish next week? That's the question you are going to ask, right? Is Monday going to be bullish? Is Monday going to be bearish? Are we, if the week is going to be bullish, we are looking at the price to be open, go low, go high, and close, right? If we are expecting a week to be bearish, we can expect to open, high, low, and close. But understand how much of a low it can go, how much of a high it can go. That's completely up to its own price action, right? Because if you saw here, Monday it opened, it only went a bit of high, and then that's it. The whole week it traded down, right? Simple as that. So now we have a new weekly fair value gap formed over here. We also have a daily fair value gap formed. It's daily fair value gap, daily fair value gap. So this is a very key area for us to understand what price wants to do, right? We have a lots of liquidity over here, and if you notice, this is also a daily fair value gap over here. Okay, so overall, I want you guys to understand what the price actions intentions are. One person also can say, okay, this is potential equal lows, right? That's not clear swept over here. These are potential equal lows. We have got two things. One, is price gonna open with a gap or sweep all this low, and then finally make its move all the way up here, at least up until here, to sweep all this liquidity, tap into this forward, and then continue our bearish price action, because last week's has created low at least up until here, right? That's number one. Number two, because we have an enough of a reaction, are we looking price to push from up here? It's very, very tricky. So I would say wait until Monday's PA is played for us to have a clear idea, because if you saw on the 8-hour time frame, you can see over here there's a sweep, and a close above on the 8-hour. So on the 8-hour time frame, the higher time frame, it just looks like, okay, fine, as long as this low is hold, we can look for continuation buys or price to go up. but we never know where the price would reverse, right? It can reverse from here, can reverse from here, can reverse from here, anywhere. So my main suggestion would be, because we are coming from such a bad week of price action, just wait for Monday, wait till the PA is being cleared and it shows us a clear direction, right? It shows us a clear direction. Imagine if Monday did this. Imagine if Monday did this, sweep the low and then close above like this. Then for the rest of the week, we would have a clear bias, right? Simple. Imagine if Monday opened, swept, created a big wick and closed below like this. Then for the rest of the week, we would have a clear market direction to sell off down there, right? So that's all for today, guys. For the next video, I will discuss about open low high close and open high low close and how we anticipate and all that stuff. But go to rejection blocks with this the 4 hour, with this the 1 hour, whatever it is, they all do work. But higher the time frame, better the key levels work. And then let me know what you think about it. All right.